You think you're smart. Most people do. But intelligence isn't what you think it is. It's not about grades, not about how much you know, not even about how fast you can talk. In fact, some of the least intelligent people sound the most confident. They argue louder. They speak more. They act like they figured everything out. And that's exactly what makes them easy to spot. Because real intelligence is quiet. It questions itself. It observes more than it speaks. It notices things others completely miss. But here's the uncomfortable truth. There are certain behaviors that instantly expose a lack of intelligence. Not obvious ones, subtle ones. Habits you repeat every day without even realizing what they say about you. And the worst part, if you have them, you probably don't even see it, because the less aware you are, the more convinced you become that you're right. So the real question is, are you actually smart or just confident enough to believe you are? Sign first, you think you're right most of the time. This is the most dangerous sign because it feels like intelligence. You have an opinion and it feels solid. Someone challenges you and your first instinct isn't curiosity, it's defense. You interrupt, you explain, you try to prove your point, not to understand, but to win. And in your mind, that feels like being smart, but it's not. It's the opposite. Because real intelligence isn't about being right. It's about being willing to be wrong. Think about it. The moment you believe you're always right, you stop learning. You stop questioning your own thinking. You stop updating your beliefs. And without realizing it, your growth freezes. But here's where it gets deeper. Your brain is designed to protect your ego. So when someone disagrees with you, it doesn't feel like a discussion. It feels like a threat to your identity, to your sense of being smart. So instead of analyzing their point, you look for ways to dismiss it. You focus on their tone, their words, their mistakes, anything except the possibility that they might be right. And that's the trap, because every time you do that, you miss an opportunity to expand your thinking. You stay locked in your own perspective, and over time, that perspective becomes limited, narrow, predictable. This is why truly intelligent people ask more questions than they answer. They don't rush to conclusions. They don't need to win every argument because they understand something powerful. Being wrong is information. It's feedback. It's data. It shows you where your thinking needs to improve. But if you avoid that feeling, if you resist it, you stay exactly where you are, comfortable, but stagnant. And the scary part? You won't even notice it happening because in your mind, you're still the smartest person in the room. Sign 2, you talk more than you think. At first, this doesn't look like a problem. You're expressive, confident, always have something to say. People might even see you as smart, just because you speak quickly and often. But here's the truth. Talking a lot isn't intelligence. It's often a cover for the lack of it. Because when you're constantly speaking, you're not giving your brain time to process. You're reacting, not thinking. You jump into conversations, finish other people's sentences, share opinions instantly, without fully understanding the situation. And it feels natural. But what you're actually doing is exposing something. You're uncomfortable with silence. And silence is where thinking happens. Real thinking. The kind that questions, analyzes, and connects ideas. But if you fill every gap with words, you skip that entire process. So your responses become predictable. Surface level. Repetitive. You say things that sound right, but don't go deep. Now here's where it gets interesting. Truly intelligent people do the opposite. They pause, even in the middle of a conversation. Not because they're slow, but because they're filtering. They're asking themselves, do I fully understand this? Is there something I'm missing? Is my response actually useful? That pause, it creates depth. It makes their words sharper, more precise, more impactful. But if you're always talking, you never reach that level. You stay on autopilot. And autopilot thinking is dangerous because it relies on habits, not awareness. You repeat what you've heard. You echo popular opinions. You speak without questioning. And slowly, your thinking becomes borrowed, not original, not refined. Just noise. Another sign hidden inside this behavior, you talk to be heard, not to understand. You're waiting for your turn to speak instead of actually listening. And when you don't listen, you don't learn. Simple as that. Because intelligence grows through input, not output. So the more you talk without thinking, the less you actually develop your mind. And the worst part? It still feels like you're doing something right. Because you're active, engaged, involved. But in reality, you're just making noise. Sign 3, You avoid things that make you feel stupid. This one is subtle, but it reveals everything. You stay in situations where you feel comfortable, where you understand what's going on, where you don't have to struggle. And the moment something feels confusing, difficult, or unfamiliar, you pull back, you lose interest. You tell yourself, this isn't for me, or worse, you pretend it's not important. But here's the truth. The feeling of being stupid is where intelligence is built. That discomfort, that moment where nothing makes sense, where you feel slow, behind, lost. That's the exact point where your brain is trying to grow. But most people run from it because it hits the ego. It makes you feel exposed, like you're not as capable as you thought. So instead of leaning into it, you escape it. You go back to what you already know. What feels easy, what makes you feel smart again. And that's the trap. Because when you only operate in comfort, you repeat the same level of thinking over and over again. No expansion, no new skills, no deeper understanding, just familiarity. Now compare that to someone truly intelligent. They seek confusion. They walk into rooms where they're the least knowledgeable. They ask questions that might make them look inexperienced. Not because they enjoy feeling lost, but because they understand something most people don't. Growth requires temporary ignorance. You have to be bad before you get good. You have to not understand before you understand deeply. And if you're not willing to go through that phase, you cap your own intelligence. You limit how far you can go. Because intelligence isn't fixed. It's built. Through struggle. Through mistakes. Through repeated exposure to things you don't yet understand. So if you avoid those moments, you're not protecting your image. You're destroying your potential. And that's the difference. Smart people don't chase the feeling of being smart. They chase the process of becoming smarter. Even if it makes them uncomfortable. Even if it makes them look slow at first. Because they know that discomfort today is clarity tomorrow.